Hey, what's going on? Thank you so much for watching. It would mean the world to us if you could just scroll down, like, hit the subscribe button for the Snaps YouTube channel. It goes a long way towards helping us out. Now, let's dive into some college football. Let's get into the Brian Kelly angle. So, Brian Kelly to Michigan is something that gained steam a few weeks back. I think look, let's just be clear about this. It doesn't matter where it fucking originally sourced. Like pre-gaming the SEC with Chris Doran and Jake Hester actually said this early on, or Billy Lucci did on that show. Moscona, guy down here in Baton Rouge, said it as well a couple weeks later. But the point is, somebody was out there saying this, right? Somebody was trying to feed this information. I think it's an agent doing his job, but let's do this. I'm not naive. Crazy shit can happen. I'm not reporting that it won't happen. Let's just take a logical look at the pros and cons. And after you do this, I think you're going to see that it's fucking ludicrous to think that Brian Kelly would leave. First off, I think I got a few main things in them. First off, Brian Kelly would not be taking over a bad program, right? No. This is not like when he came to LSU and it was essentially a reclamation project. He was taking something that was broken and he was able to but still had a ton of great natural resources by and everything else. And he's able to rebuild it in his image. That's attractive to a premier coach. Again, if you take this job over, there's a couple things that's going to be very hard to live up to. First off, the level of expectation. You're coming off of 3 Big Ten championships in a row, smoking Ohio State 3 years in a row, and now a 15-0 national championship. There's literally nowhere to go results-wise but down.
Yep.
And you're losing a lot of key players. Even more impactfully than that, because coaches are going to say, oh, I don't give a fuck about that. Well, you know what they do give a fuck about? They want their process, their culture, okay? Harbaugh has been crafting and cultivating a process for 9 years. And there's been a way of doing things for 9 years. That's why internally somebody like Sharon Moore makes sense, because in theory, you ease that transition. If you bring in a completely new guy with a completely new process, that requires tearing down to build back up. What does that take? Time. Now arrive at the second reason. Brian Kelly's on the clock. He's 62 years old. Saban 72. Belichick 71. Carroll 72. He's got limited time, and he just spent 3 years building LSU and instilling his process, the daily habits, all these sorts of things. If he goes to Michigan, it starts over. And it's another 3 years. And then he's 65. And then you got 5 years. Well, he's going into year number 3, is what I'm saying.
But like, I agree with that one. Like,
jump through this screen and
I'm just trying to just make sure we're putting out accurate content here. It's been 2 years, not 3, just 2. That's all, not 3.
What did you want to add, Aaron?
If you're the court is yours. You have more to add to your.
Okay, so Kelly doesn't really have the time. He's kind of on the clock. You know, the last 2 national championship coach or last 2 coaches at LSU have won natty, so no excuse not to win there. And then look, he gets everything he wants from LSU. He spent $1.5 million on a D-line coach. He spent $750 on a edge rusher coach. Spent $2.5 on a new D coordinator. Bring back Corey Raymond in the secondary. Just hired the former Tulane OC to be the tight ends coach. And most importantly, I mean, even look at the security of his personal deal, but he has alignment with the AD. Like him and Scott Woodward are in lockstep. Very famously, Harbaugh and Ward Manuel were kind of at each other's throats a lot. And Michigan, look, I think this is probably correct from what we should prioritize, like a ethical or maybe just like a worldview standpoint. But Michigan, they're not obsessed with spending on sports and on football like LSU is. Like LSU will say, fuck the library, fuck education. You need to hire that edge rusher coach, and we're going to give you that shit. I don't think it's like that at Michigan. And then finally, dude, Michigan doesn't want it. Michigan wants to run more, you know? So it's one of those deals where, again, I'm not saying it can't happen, but if you look at just the logic of the situation, it's just absurd. It shouldn't happen.
No, it should. I mean, Moore is the guy. I think we all know. Like, this is just playing playful. If it isn't Moore, who is going to be? But I think it's like 90% chance it's going to be Moore. Going back to a couple points you made about Kelly. And understanding what the roster you're inheriting looks like, understanding the situation you're going into, looks like as well. Your biggest rival, as we know, is Ohio State. No doubt about it. It's Michigan, it's Ohio State, the two big boys in the Big Ten. You're losing a lot while Ohio State is gaining a ton this offseason. Like we broke it down the other day. Like Ohio State is projected to be the number 1 or number 2 team in the country by a lot of people. So you're walking into a situation where you're going to lose double-digit guys to the NFL. Ohio State's getting stronger. You have to continue the tradition now of beating them on the way to the playoffs, on the way to the national championship. That's tough. Where you stay at LSU, guess what? Your biggest rival, the team that has given you the biggest headache in the SEC, has been Alabama. And guess what? They just lost a lot of dudes on that team.
Mm-hmm.
They just lost their coach, and then a mass exodus of 4- and 5-star guys. So when you want to talk about what makes your job easier, what keeps the fans off your ass, it's beating your biggest rival. We've talked about it with Michigan, Ohio State over and over again. You're going into a spot where you're going to be weaker than your rival, where you stay at LSU. Right now, it seems like LSU, who I believe Vegas has a 4-point favorite over Alabama next year, is stronger than Alabama is at the moment with the changes going on. So like that's something you want to do. And then I've talked to Kelly the numerous times that I've covered LSU over the past 2 years about his process, about building the culture. And he said, year one, you lay the foundation, and then year 2, you can start to reteach that, but then have players that have come from the previous year.
Wait, hold on. Start over. Wait, hold on. You cut off after year 1, lay the foundation. So pick up from year 1, lay the foundation.
Well, year 1, you lay the foundation. Then year 2, you allow those players to start continuing what you taught. Then it's less coach driven, more player driven. Year 3, and then it just continues to it's a snowball effect from there. And like you said, like why, after 2 years of laying that foundation at a place like LSU, at a place you know you can win, at a place where your rival's down a little bit right now, would you leave to go somewhere else to have to start all that over again? So I'm with you. Like, I just don't see him picking up and leaving.
And in the past, not that this actually means anything, but in the past, he has multiple times said that it's the last stop. LSU is like, this is the, chips in the center of the table, make the move from Notre Dame, try to go get this natty, the lone thing that has eluded me. Sorry, I don't know. Maybe it's on my side that your audio cut off there, and I'm not sure. I apologize though. William Anthony Kelly to UM is clickbait trash. I'm going to try to get an increase and or an extension. Well, I want to be clear about this. People aren't making this up out of thin air. Again, somebody has planted these seeds, and I think it's because it always behooves a client to have their name involved in these sorts of conversations.
Hey, T.
All right. Is there any?
Restart your browser real quick. I'm gonna hit on a couple other guys as you come back in.
Restart my browsers.
Yeah, your browsers. Yeah. That thing you pay $20 a month for.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah, that one. Okay, there we go. T was lagging a little bit on that one. Other possible candidates that kind of have come to be discussed: Lance Leipold at Kansas, Kleiman at Kansas State. 2 that I never really thought about too much. But Harbaugh did go to the NFL. He talked to his brother, was able to get 2 defensive coordinators from Jim to come to Michigan. And you look at the Baltimore Ravens right now, defensive coordinator Mike Macdonald, who was the defensive coordinator at Michigan. If he does want to jump back into college, he's an interesting guy. Obviously had a lot of success and was part of that beginning to beat Ohio State and turn Michigan into a playoff team and eventually lead the way to winning a national championship. So I don't hate Mike Macdonald, and then obviously Todd Monken too, OC from Baltimore. So 2 guys that do have connections through the brotherly love there in Baltimore could be someone they may discuss, consider T if they do want to go somewhere else besides the Sharon Moore route.
See, I just don't think any of these names make sense. Like again, Lance Leipold,
even Mike Macdonald coming back. See, how's
that better than Sharon Moore, who's been there now for 6 years?
No, I agree. I'm just saying, like, if there's something internally that we don't know, that like maybe they just don't want Sharon Moore for whatever reason, they just don't want him. They're like, we want to get someone else. I don't think they do. I'm just spitballing. I like Mike Macdonald.
Yeah, no, and that's fair. He's very good. I just like the only name on this list would be Luke Fickell. And whatever. I think Luke Fickell's going to be fine at Wisconsin long term. Like, I think they're going to be much better. But like for Luke Fickell, Michigan would represent the kind of job that he was actually seemingly waiting on for years and years when he was at Cincinnati. Like if he had waited one more year, I think they'd be having very serious conversations about, do we pursue Luke Fickell or do we just promote Sharon Moore? Lance Leipold's age is, I think, potentially prohibitive. If because he and again, any of these guys is going to be like tearing down, building anew. Is Leipold attractive enough to take that risk? Luke Fickell, I think, may be. With Monken, I mean, you're giving a guy a first shot. And again, and this is where you go back to Moore. Not only has he been there for 6 years, he's the architect of 2 back-to-back Joe Moore award-winning offensive line. Should have been 3. And he calls plays this year. And he did the coaching thing. I mean, he was the head coach for the wins over Penn State, Maryland, and Ohio State. Like, you could not have a more proven in-house candidate. And then you even have Zach Zinter coming out there and saying, like, no interviews needed. Hire Papa. What did he say? He said, hire Papa Moore. It's time.
Yeah. Well,
so
and I think,
and if you want to protect yourself against the 30-day portal window, Sharon Moore is likely your best bet to do that.
If you want to learn from history, aka 10 days ago with Alabama, about what will happen if you hire outside the building and what could happen. And I said this last night on the show. Like, I think both schools are in different situations. Like Alabama for exceeding expectations this past season. Man, there was a lot of just like up and down and ugly at times this year. Where like you brought up best beginning of this show, Michigan, by a lot of people's opinions, was the number 1 team from the beginning of the season to the very end. Like, being a Michigan football player right now is as good as it can get. You are the kings of the campus. You're the kings of college football. Do you leave that situation just because they went and hired someone from outside the building? I don't know. Where Alabama, it's a little bit different because things weren't as ho-hum, beautiful. Everything's going in the right direction. We love Michigan. We just won a championship. A little bit different feeling.
Michigan's a little A&M culty. From talking to Joshua Perry that we do work with, you think you've worked with him as well. It's interesting to hear Ohio State fans describe Michigan, and they use similar language to how we think about A&M down here in the SEC. Like, they're bought into the idea of the Michigan man. And it's
but the players they all have to be that too, though. It's not just the coaches. It's the players.
But the players do believe it there. That's what I'm saying. That's how they've had so much success despite not having the biggest recruiting classes. Whereas Alabama, as you rightfully pointed out, while there are still a lot of guys who are about Bama, like I don't want to go too far with this. A lot of them were there for Saban and the NFL and everything that he could do for their career, right? So, like, yes, a departure from one, a departure like. Sharon Moore represents a continuity there that appeals to the Michigan man. And I will say
I don't think if they hired Fickell or someone else on this list that isn't a quote unquote Michigan man, or for Alabama, a guy that was under the Nick Saban, tree, I don't think you would see a mass exodus of players like you saw at Alabama. Like, I don't think all the top guys.
You're probably right. No, you're probably right.
I think they're very different
for Michigan. Yes. I would say this too, and this is not, I don't think conspiratorial is the right word, but if we just kind of play this out over time, like war game it, it's not necessarily the worst thing if Sharon Moore ends up not being the guy. Because if you bring in a new guy, again, you immediately go into teardown mode. Whether you want it or not, it happens, and you have to try to build it back up. If you try to continue with Moore and it doesn't work out, well, you let the marketplace develop in a couple of years in this brand new, insane college football landscape that we're entering. And then if he's not the guy, you'll have new candidates that are the guy. And you're not hiring at the end of a coaching cycle in which everybody's already been snatched up, in which additional coaching changes can have massive ramifications on you at a time when, like, it's tough. Like, what if you're a business? Okay, one of the reasons why Louisiana's economy sucks dick is because the tax code is Swiss cheese. Yes, there's a lot of tax breaks for businesses, but it's also contradictory, and there's so much bullshit. It's so obfuscated that it's hard to make tactical, sound, long-term decisions. And so despite tax breaks, it's not actually attractive for businesses to come here to do business. In that same way, it's tough to make long-term decisions regarding college football right now because you don't know how much it's going to change. Will it break off completely? Will you even be dealing with the NCAA? What will the calendar be like? So to emphasize continuity and an easy transition into more here in the short term, and then let it play out over the couple of years and then reevaluate, like that seems to make a ton of sense to me strategically.